Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of A Sit Down with Spirit. I'm Rita Gigante, psychic, medium, healer, author, and teacher. Today I have a very exciting guest. Her name is Rose Fitzgerald. She's a dear friend of mine and an unbelievable healer. And I want you to hear all about her work and how she can help you. So let's welcome Rose.
So I'm Rose Fitzgerald. I have been studying body-centered and earth-centered practices for decades now. I have my bachelor's in science, in adult fitness, and I've studied shamanic healing, trauma release exercises. I'm a yoga teacher, and specifically energy medicine yoga teacher. I am trained as a massage therapist, and I've studied Reiki and light grid work and
My
many,
goodness, my
I mean,
goodness.
it goes
I,
on. So it's
No,
been,
I get that. Like when people say, "What do you do?" I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know if you really want to ask that question because it could go on and on and on.
Exactly.
Because every day I feel like it's morphing. It's like, you're being called to do something maybe that you haven't done before, or you're mixing it with other things that you haven't done in a long time. So we
For
keep
sure.
evolving as we move.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, as of late, with
Yeah,
everything that's going on, even
yeah,
around the world now that we've been seeing, where do you feel like your work focuses the most?
yeah. Great question. So it still stays body centered. And what I find and what I've been finding and how it's been morphing is that I really find that um, people are looking at their past, or they're not actually really looking at their past. They're actually feeling their past come forward in their bodies. And it shows up as pain, or feeling like, oh, I'm a bit paralyzed and being able to take action. And um, and what I've been helping them to do is to unearth that from their own bodies. And so um and a lot of people, I refer to it as transforming trauma.
Mm,
So the past gets stored in the body in all different ways, right? So it gets stored emotionally, it
hmm
gets stored in the nervous system. There are subconscious patterns that are continuing to run. I mean, 95% of our lives are run on subconscious patterns. Yeah,
true.
yeah. And so, and then spiritually, sometimes there's like a spiritual illness that occurs, maybe soul fragmentation, etc.
Mm,
And so I work to help people unravel their past. So it's like cleaning out their attic and cleaning out their basement, and taking a box and unpacking that box, um and being able to go. I mean, sometimes you don't even have to know what's in the box. Sometimes you can just take the box and chuck it, right?
Right,
Sometimes you take the box and you go, oh wow, that was significant, and I
right.
need to just let this go, and or just bring it to the light,
Yep.
be able to bring your consciousness to it, and then let it go. And so, and the way that I've actually, in a nutshell, I see, life, just everything as energy, right? And
Sure,
so
sure.
this is just energy that's stuck, and it vibrates
Right.
at a certain frequency. And so this is, and a lot of times this frequency is less than what is the most favorable, which is actually our essence, which is joy and love. And
Right.
so as we can unpack energetically all of that stuff that's of a lesser or a more dense vibration,
hmm
then it's subtle yet really profound how life's how you start feeling in your body, and how life starts coming to you and you going to life, right? You have a greater sense of your intuition. You have a greater sense of awareness. It's like your spidey sense is on better.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I just from experience, because I've worked with you and have had tremendous clearings, I realize the body, when it's not storing something unnecessarily or something that's of a denser vibration,
right,
and then I have more light in my body, I actually feel lighter,
right,
and
yeah,
I'm able to like then even do more in the life because of that. And
right,
that to me, I mean,
yeah,
my God. So
yeah,
you talked about trauma release therapy, right?
uh-huh.
What is that exactly, and how does it work with people or even groups? Do you does it work with groups as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, gosh, I use quite a few tools. And I call it like the star of the show. The star of the show is trauma release exercises. And and this was it's a practice, almost like a yoga practice,
Right.
where you're actually just going to the body and you're actually activating what's referred to as a neurogenic tremor. And so that neurogenic tremor is part of the nervous system, and it's innate to our physical bodies, just like our respiratory, we breathe. It's just natural. It's part of our autonomic nervous system.
Got it.
And our heart beats, and and our bodies digest. And those are natural processes of the body. And this neurogenic tremor, it wants to turn on. We have a really powerful mind. We have a very powerful frontal cortex that goes into judgment and rationalization. And we've been trained to stop that tremor from happening when it actually wants to happen, to release stress and trauma. So it's actually built into our systems as a natural process, just like our breathing and our heartbeat.
Okay.
And we can control it with our strong minds. And by the time we're 4, because we don't see anyone, none of the adults around us tremoring,
Right.
we just kind of shut that off. And it's a subconscious thing, right? So here again, it's the subconscious patterning. So because tremoring in our society is seen as like having Parkinson's or epilepsy, right? Having so
negativity associated with it, or something that doesn't seem the norm.
That's not healthy, right?
Right. That it's not healthy. But
however, in fact, right, it actually is it could prevent those things from happening if we just allowed our bodies to do this tremor, to come back to homeostasis. And homeostasis is our rest and restore nervous system. Our bodies always are trying to come back to homeostasis. And that means, just that calm, quiet, restful space. So it looks like, and it sounds like I'm excited about this, like people, a lot of times they're talking about trauma and their faces, and, it's like, it's weighty. And I'm like, no, this is hopeful, yes, you can do this. And what I love about this process of working with the neurogenic tremors and turning on, working with TRE, and other practices. I also work with neurovascular holds, which help to metabolize emotions through the body, through the organs, which is a 5-element Chinese medicine kind of a system, and some sounds. I mean, these are other tools that are used, that I send these practices home with people who I work with individually. And yes, I do work in groups. And people can actually go home and do this on their own. And they then, I feel like I introduce people to their new best friend. They don't know that they're their new best friend, but they're going to have this best friend for the rest of their lives. And they can access this, forever. And
Sure.
you become healthier. It's a really healthy new best friend.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Would you say that this process of the tremoring is instinctual to us, but it gets shut down? It's not something that it's instinctual, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so all mammals. So if there's lots of videos, and you can look them up. All mammals in nature, they don't have a frontal cortex. So we have this very sophisticated brain, and they don't have that frontal cortex, right? So we think we're so smart, but actually they naturally go into this tremor because they don't have that judgment and rationalization. And, so if a tiger is chasing an antelope and the antelope runs and runs and runs, and the tiger goes, oh, I'm so tired, or sees something else, and it leaves the antelope alone, the antelope gets a sense of that, gets to safety, will naturally drop down on the ground, will tremor. And so it's like releasing that experience immediately, and then it'll pop up and go on with its life,
Wow.
as if nothing happened. And what they've also found is that, like their abilities to be more instinctual is heightened as well. And so that actually translates to us as well. So all mammals have this built in. And
Okay.
so there might be some people who have been in a car accident, and after they've overcome the shock of the car accident, and their bodies start to shake,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or even after a post childbirth, the body starts to shake, and a lot of people will go, oh, put a blanket or maybe give them Valium, but it's a natural response, and the body wants to do it, and it's really great for the body to do it.
Yeah. You helped me tremendously when my mom passed, because I was doing a lot of that shaking, but I didn't know that I was releasing the energy.
Right.
I just thought I was, completely, like, I just felt like my nervous system was so shot that, and it was, and the body was reacting to it.
Right.
But I didn't know that was a good thing. I thought, oh my God, something's wrong.
Exactly. Right. And then your mind takes over, and then your mind's like, oh, and you start creating this mayhem inside.
Right.
Whereas if what you ended up doing is you just allowed your body to tremor, and you went, oh, this is normal. And then you're able to get to the other side of that intense situation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So you say you work in groups, and of course you work one-on-one. Do you work like we're doing now, Zoom as well?
I do actually. I'm not sure when this podcast will occur, but this Wednesday I have a group that's online and in person at Yoga Synthesis in Ramsey, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I also meet usually once a month that way. So I started doing it at post-COVID. I was doing it just online like this in a group. Pre-COVID, I was just working in a studio with a group, and now I'm hybriding it. So I'm working with both at the same time. And what's fascinating is that, of course, when people are one-on-one with me, it's intimate, and I'm able to, pay full attention to that individual and maybe talk about things, or and even do some body work, hands-on work. And pre-COVID, when I was just in the studio, people would show up, and of course they had people who were next to them. And, and when you're dealing with trauma, it's always like, oh, how much am I Like, am I going to
Right.
cry? Am I going to make noise?
Right.
And this, so it's like the safety boundary, like how much can I put myself in a cocoon and feel safe to be able to do this?
Sure.
And then when COVID happened, I threw the practice online, because I was like, oh, everyone needs this now, and so let's just
Oh, I
make it
mean,
available,
absolutely.
to everyone. The translation from in person to online, I had no idea how that was going to be. And the people who were practicing with me in the group, quite a few of them said, wow, I was able to release more online because I was in the safety of my own home. I was able to be in the room by myself. I was able to, create the atmosphere, darken the lights and maybe have some soft music, and also they felt liberated to be able to vocalize if they needed to. And that was really helpful. So again, it's energy releasing. So the tremor turns, starts to work with the nervous system. And then, so then the voice is really important, for expressing, for moving, energy. And those neurovascular holds, which are, some of my favorite tools, which are just, they're just simple hand holds on the head, and they're like magic buttons on the head that help to release the emotion from the body.
And you find that people that, even though they're not with you physically, you find that they're getting just as much progress, or, as if someone was working in person with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And and there's the word entrainment, right? So
Yes.
back to the fact that everything is energy, even, the television that we're on, or the computer, everything's vibrating at a certain vibration. It's the density, right? And so entrainment, so a lot of times when I'm working with a person or with a group,
Right.
my physical body energetically will entrain with the person or the group, and I'll get a sense of where everyone's at, and I'll be able to then teach from that place. So like all of a sudden I'll start feeling like I'll know what my baseline is before I start working with someone, or before I'm working with the group. So I'm my baseline in my own physical body. I know how I'm feeling, how my energy is flowing, if I'm feeling tired, if I'm feeling enlivened. And so when I'm working with someone, like all of a sudden I'll start feeling like, oh, my jaw is starting to feel tight. And I'll say, okay, everyone, just like open your mouth and wriggle your jaw, and maybe do some humming to get the energy moving there, right? Or, working with the chakras, like take a nice big breath into the heart. A lot gets held in the heart and between the heart and the throat, and just freeing that up. And if you need to make a noise, or just exhaling, nice big exhales.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so
Yeah.
What types of people come to you? Is it all walks of life, or are you finding mostly women, men, children? Is it, tell me what you see normally.
Let's see. I'd say a huge percentage are women who are, in their, ranging from mid-20s to say late 60s.
Right.
Women who have been doing some work, or, they've been living their life and they're bumping up against some things, and they've, they talk to a friend, and the friend says, oh, you need to go and work with Rose. She'll really help you to get that moving. Right.
Right.
And, and there are women who, who have suffered some abuse, whether it was emotional or sexual or physical. And here they are, a lot of them are either wanting to get married, and they don't want to enter into a relationship where they're welcoming that pattern that has happened to them. And so they're wanting to clear that for themselves.
Sure,
And,
sure.
and so I've worked with quite a few women that way. People who have children and they're realizing that they're not being able to be available to them because they're disassociated, because they're not feeling safe in their own bodies, because this trauma and terror is living inside of them. And what's interesting is that it's from the past. So a lot of times in their current situation, they're actually safe and they can start to release this. They've already gotten themselves out of that situation, and the body is so resilient, right?
Sure.
So women like that will come, or people who have just like this stuff has been like, it's been under a rug, or
it's been embedded,
stuck in their in their liver, or in with their lower back for the longest time. And so they're like, wow, I need to do something stuck here. So that I've recently had some men show up, and like feeling like, oh, they also have experienced emotional abuse, like sometimes there's societal things that are really harsh for people. I mean, some real, like you could never imagine, like the torture that some people have experienced. And if you go, wow, is this really what happened to them? Like, wow, like unthinkable. And because they have this physical body knows what to do, like help them create space for their bodies to unfold and to release those things from the attic and things from the basement, clean out their closets. Yeah. And I think about the children. I mean, I have worked with some children, mostly, I mean, the youngest probably like 9 years old, and actually really receptive to it. And actually it's really great for them to learn so early.
Oh God, yeah.
Because for one, they have the rest of their lives to know that this is normal and healthy. And also, the way that I see trauma in the body is that we've inherited some trauma, some emotional patterns, some subconscious patterns. And I see it like, that we have like we start off with this little ball of yarn. And then as we experience life, it's like the ball of yarn gets bigger. We kind of wind up this ball of yarn, and it starts depositing in the physical body, the emotional body, mental, our abilities to be in our space of love or be in a place of fear. And so this process helps to unravel that ball of yarn. And so if I'm working with someone who's 9, then their ball of yarn is still quite little. And the unraveling is so much, is just, it's easy, right? And then they're like, and they're empowered then. And then they're in their, they're sovereign, they're like sticking up for themselves, and they're like, what, they're being able to put up boundaries. No, that's not okay. Don't treat me like that. Right.
So do you teach any of this to others? Do you do teacher training, or is it just you doing it?
That's a good question. It's something that it's been in the back of my mind to teach it in a form. And it will probably come to be in the next year or so.
That's great, because I think the more people who can connect to this, even if people just did it for their children that need to do it for themselves. Because I mean, when I'm looking, the way I'm looking at it with you speaking, I'm like, oh, you can clear the whole lineage of stuff. It's like you can clear the whole family crap for yourselves that you've been hanging on to, or that's been stuck
That's
for
right.
ages. Sometimes, I mean, I even know we carry things from past lives.
Yeah.
Generational could be back 100 years, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
you
For
know,
sure.
we're maybe we're unaware of it, but when you're doing this kind of stuff, shit comes out all over the place, right?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you can go,
I've had people, like they have, while they're working with them, they know that there's something in there that's really deep, and
yeah,
they're of Jewish descent, and they all of a sudden they have this realization that, like there's something from the Holocaust that's coming up, that they're
right,
clearing for an ancestor, or maybe even for
exactly,
themselves from a past life. Yeah, it's
exactly,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's the beauty of this practice is that you don't need to know what you're clearing. Sometimes it
I
shows you.
love that. I
Right.
love that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not to. I remember being in talk therapy, and it was fantastic at the time that I was in there. But I remember there coming a time where I'm like, I need more.
Yeah.
Like talking about it wasn't enough
Yeah.
at some point. Like it's like, yeah,
No,
like my body needs to clear some of
totally.
this. Like it was just an automatic, and
Yeah.
now we have this kind of stuff that does that.
That's right.
And
Because trauma actually does need to be, that's a great point, because trauma needs to be released somatically. And so that means through the body.
right,
It can't just be talking.
exactly.
It can't just be talking. And I've had people who have showed up, who have done a ton of talk therapy, and then they show up at my table, and then they, like they weep, or they'll get off the table, they'll be like, oh my gosh, that was like 10 years worth of therapy right there.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I hear that all the time when I'm doing a session with people. And that's that's what happened to me when I started doing the body work stuff. I
Yeah.
was like, this is fantastic because things were releasing like by the second, and my body was shifting and moving, and it was just so. And it's, I always think, because I work on young people too sometimes, I'm like, the younger they are, the less baggage that they
Exactly.
have,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
they can move forward in a much um, better way than they were at as long as they're open to it. And
Yeah.
the idea is to make sure that even the parents are open to it, right? Because parents will do anything for their children, but they have to
Yeah.
want to do it for themselves as well, because they, as they move forward, their children automatically move forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I love the fact that you're going to be doing training. I think that will be incredible, and I think there are certain people made for this kind of stuff. When I look at you, I'm like, I see the epitome of Mother Earth, very grounding, very like, has done a ton of work
Yeah.
on yourself to actually be able to help others. And to me, that's like important. It's like if I did, just bringing back to talk therapy, if I did talk therapy with someone that had no clue what anxiety was
Hmm.
or panic was, they can understand me from the viewpoint of what they studied,
Hmm.
but they couldn't really understand me if they've never had a panic or an anxiety attack,
Yeah.
right? So someone that understands trauma, has been through the trauma and has cleared it, completely understands
Hmm.
and can connect to whoever's coming to them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's the key. Um, all right, so there was one other question I had for you, and I can't. It went right out of my head, of course. Um, is there anything else you want to share?
Well, actually, just speaking to what you just said, like I feel like I came into a family where I'm really, really blessed. I had parents who were loving, and the main focus in our life, in our family, was
Hmm.
love. I'm from a family of 10 children, and I'm number 8. And what's interesting is that I didn't have a lot of physical or emotional, mental trauma, right? but
Right.
I definitely had to work through some things. And I realized, as I have this intuitive sense, and like I said before, like I've been working with the body and
Right.
with earth practices for a long time. And I realized that, oh, something's happening. I just need to give it space to move through me. And so, like, even when I was, I don't know, in my 20s, like I would be feeling really emotional, and I would just let myself lay on my bed, get really soft and cry.
Right.
And so I would go, oh, that worked. And if that works for me, that will work for other people. And and of course, like 2 decades later, that's when
Sure.
I, so
Yeah.
it's life is a process. And I'm so grateful for this time and space, and to be able to offer this gift to everyone. And I really feel like, and this is something David Berceli, who's the creator, founder of TRE, he
Right.
says, this is my contribution to world peace. Because
Ah, I
if
love that.
every single person tremored, if they did it
Yeah.
as regular practice, they would unravel their past, they would unravel their anger, their fear, their
Yeah.
like stuff that they, that's societal, that's collective.
Yeah.
They would let that go, and they would come back to their true essence, and then they would be able to, be loving and kind and peaceful. And yeah, so that's
Yeah,
how.
and I love that you incorporate other things that you do with it, like the shamanism and being able to tap into if there needs to be um some kind of retrieval that pieces are missing. Sometimes that happens with people that
Yeah, cord cutting. I
cord
mean,
cutting.
and that's been part of my process, is that I go, okay, so what does it take to be human, right? We're in
Mm,
these human bodies, right? And
right,
we're living this life, and hopefully in a conscious way, right?
sure.
And so the body is the common denominator to living this life. I mean, we came into this
Exactly.
body, we're physical, we're mental, emotional, and spiritual. And
Right.
so all of the practices that I work with helping to, fine tune from all of those perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what I find a lot of us light workers are doing now. We're incorporating so many different
Yeah.
modalities because
Yeah.
whoever's coming in, they just,
Yeah.
they you and spirit, the guides are assessing, okay, this is what they need today. It's not just going to be this. You're going to need to incorporate this and this and this, and
That's right.
that's
That's right.
it's like an overhaul, I want to say, right? Instead of just changing the brakes on your car, you're doing the whole thing.
That's
um
right.
and it used to be, I was just a massage therapist. I don't mean it like
Yeah.
that, but that's what I did, right?
Yeah,
And
for
then it
sure.
was, yeah, and then it was I was a psychic, and then it was and it all just unraveled. So
That's right.
I just find that that's happening more and more now with people.
Yeah.
Um, well, this was fabulous, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Um,
this opportunity too. Yeah.
yes, of course. Tell everyone how they
Yeah.
can reach you.
Okay. So my website is basically www.rosefitzgerald.com.
Right?
And so my modalities are there, my classes are there. And also my husband and I share a Patreon account, which is R&R. If you just put in Patreon,
Okay.
um, R&R, and that comes up. And so, yeah, so I share some of my techniques there. I do have a YouTube channel, which is also my name. Instagram is rose.fitzgerald8. And yeah, so those are all really the ways that you can reach me. And yeah, I would love to
Awesome.
hear feedback, or if you have any questions, and if you wanted to join a class or have a private session if you're local, or even actually I do Zoom sessions,
Yeah.
one as well. Yeah.
I'm not far from you, so it's easy for me to do an in-person, but I know that you can very easily do this on Zoom, and be of service tremendously for someone.
For sure.
So
Yeah. I currently have a regular client who, is I do on Zoom, and she's having beautiful results. Yeah.
no, isn't it amazing to watch somebody go through their process and become like who they're supposed to become? Like
Oh,
they figure out their true self.
it's
It's
beautiful.
right.
It really is. Like there's someone just over the weekend who I've known her for years, and she's always had this like this little like something kind of tight in here.
Yeah.
And she joined me for a group class last month, and she took it upon herself to practice on a regular basis, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day.
Right.
And just to see how she has blossomed, like this week, there was like, no, it was like,
oh my God,
laughing, beautiful. It's just so exciting.
It's for us, it's like,
yeah,
so rewarding, right? Because we so want to help, and of course we have to meet them where they are, because not everybody's ready at the beginning. They go, some people go slower than others through the process. Also, I find, and I'm sure you find this, Rose, that people heal in layers. They don't always heal all at once, right? So they'll think something's wrong when an emotion comes up around a subject that they thought they cleared, and it really is just another layer of that. It's not that you went backwards, but it's just another layer that's coming up to heal, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I really feel that the body and the mind like knows instinctively, this is all we can go today. Next time we'll, because it may be too much in one shot. Yeah. So fabulous, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Wonderful.
And thank you so much for the work that you do too, Rita. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. We will be seeing you soon. And I'm telling everybody right now, you just gotta get a session with Rose. She's amazing.
Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, sweetie. Have a great day.
Blessings to everyone.